Welcome to our step-by-step tutorial on how to integrate Testkube with Jenkins. Let's start by creating a new test in the Testkube dashboard. I will call this test Jenkins test. The type will be curl. I'm just going to create a simple curl test. The source will be string, and now for the JSON here I will do a request to this URL and I will expect the status of 200. Let's create the test and we can trigger our first run just to see that this is working. And the test has passed successfully. Next, you'll have to make sure you have the Testkube CLI plugin installed for Jenkins, and there are three options on how you can install it: from the UI, using the CLI, or by uploading the plugin directly. Choose whichever works best for you. After installation, go to the dashboard, manage Jenkins, plugins, install plugins, search for Testkube, and you should see Testkube CLI here and it should be enabled. Let's continue with creating an API token in Testkube and storing that as a credential in Jenkins. I will go to the Testkube dashboard and then you can click on your organization name and on organization management. Then on the sidebar, choose API tokens. On the right you have an add a new token button. You can give it a name. I will call it Jenkins and I will set it to not expire and create token. I will copy the token, then go back to the Jenkins dashboard, go to the manage Jenkins on the sidebar. Under security you have a credentials option. Click on that. Now we can go to system. Here you can create another domain if you'd like, but I will use the global credentials, and then I have to add a new credential here and I will choose secret text. The secret will be the API token that I just copied from Testkube, and the ID I will set it as tk_API_token, and I'll click on create. Now we are ready to trigger an execution from Jenkins. To do that, there are two ways, and we will cover both. Let's start by going to a new item, and we will start by using a pipeline. I will call this Testkube pipeline, and let's click on OK. My pipeline was created, and now I can modify the pipeline script. To bootstrap the initial code, if you are using Testkube Pro, you can go back to the Testkube dashboard, and on your test details page you will see a CI/CD integration tab. Click on that, and then in the sidebar you can choose Jenkins, and it will give you an initial code that you can use. I will copy it. Now going back to Jenkins, I can paste this script here. If you don't have Testkube Pro, you can also find this in our documentation, but it's nice that we already have the organization and environment IDs set up, and we've created the TK API token credential in the step before. Now what this is doing is creating a stage called testing, and in the script we see a call to set up Testkube. This will download and install the Testkube CLI, and it will make it available for any shell commands that you will run after. And you can see here that we run Testkube run test and the name of our test. And we can also add the follow tag so we can see the execution results directly in Jenkins. Now we can click on save and we can click on build now. The test execution completed with success. We can see all the logs here, and we can also find the execution name, which is Jenkins test 3. If we go back to our Testkube dashboard, we can see that the same execution is visible here, so our integration worked as expected. If your goal was to integrate Testkube with Jenkins pipelines, then you can skip the rest of the video. Otherwise, you can continue watching to see how we can trigger Testkube tests from Jenkins freestyle projects. Before we can do that, you will have to go to Manage Jenkins, Credentials, and then create the credentials for TK environment and TK organization with the environment and organization IDs. You can find those if you go to the Testkube dashboard, go to settings, and you can copy them from the commands that you see on screen. After that, you can create a new freestyle project, go to new item, Testkube project, freestyle project here, and then click on OK. If we scroll down, we'll have to do 3 things. The first one would be to build our environment. That's why we need those credentials, because we will have to use them to add environment variables. So I'll select secret text, and then I'll set each variable that I just created as credential. So TK API token, and then I'll do the same for the organization and the environment. After you have the environment, scroll down. Under build steps, you will see a drop down, and we will have to choose Testkube setup. If you don't see it here, you can search for it. This step will download, configure, and set up the Testkube CLI, and then you will be able to run Testkube commands in following execute shells that you add. So add a build step, execute shell, and now here we have access to the Testkube CLI. As we did before, we will run the test that we created in this video. So Testkube run test, Jenkins test, and the follow tag. Now we can click on save, build now. This test execution has completed with success as well, and we can also check the Testkube dashboard again. We can see we have the 4th execution of our test. So there you have it. This is how you can integrate Testkube with Jenkins. Thank you for watching, and I hope this will help you get started with your own integration.